Hey everyone, it's Mike Simmons with TK Elevator. I'm out here at an active job site at a high school in Mid-Ohio to talk to you today about the pit layout on a traditional hydraulic elevator with the machine room. As you can see, I'm down here in the pit. I'd like to start off with a safety topic. Anytime you're ever going to access the pit, you always want to make sure you check the landings above you. Make sure that A, they have an OSHA barricade in place, and B, that there's no debris such as bricks or construction material that might be near the hoistway that could get kicked in or knocked in while you're down here working. One of the easiest ways to avoid added costs at the end of the project is to have all the work by other trades, such as pit lighting and electrical and plumbing, installed prior to the mobilization of the elevator team. Today, I'm going to show you how to identify safe zones where the work by other trades can be located so that it won't interfere with the elevator equipment. Let's begin with the strike side. This elevator has a left-hand door, so if you're looking at the hoistway, the strike side will be on your left. This is pretty much the busiest side of the elevator because it's where the ladder is going to be located and also the pit stop switch and light switch. When you look at the drawings of the strike side, you'll notice the pit ladder, the hydraulic jack, and the Omega rails. All right, I've just finished laying out the strike side. What I'd like to point out here, there's a 6-inch area right here in the front of the hoistway where you cannot put equipment. That's where our sill support goes. Right next to that, I've drawn out EMT. This is where the electrical conduit is going to go, which will eventually terminate at the light switch. I've also drawn out the pit ladder here. I have it clearly labeled as ladder. Next to that, you can see I've clearly labeled the location of the hydraulic jack and our rails. On either side of the jack and rails is a 1-foot space that allows for clearance. So on this side of the hoistway, you essentially have a yes zone right here from the 1-foot clearance to the back wall. Any kind of plumbing or electrical could come through at this location. Now I'm going to draw out the back wall. What I'm going to identify here is the location of the cab as well as how far it will be down into the pit on a fully compressed buffer spring. Looking at the hoistway plan, you can see that we have 8 inches of clearance on either side of the cab. And if you look over at the contract data, you'll notice that the between pit floor and car bolster on a compressed buffer distance is 3'3" and 7/8". Now I've finished laying out the rear wall. What I'd like to point out here is that you do have a safe zone here. You can see I've drawn out the elevator cab silhouette. So essentially this is about as far down as the elevator cab will go if it's resting on a fully compressed buffer spring, which would be located in the center of the pit. So again, this would be a safe zone. Essentially anywhere underneath the cab would be a safe zone, and you also have a safe zone on the return side. I've just finished the pit template on the return side. As you can see, I've clearly marked out our rail location. I've also drawn the location of the hydraulic jacks, and I've also included the 1-foot clearance on either side, which makes all of this a no zone. I've also drawn the sill location on the front wall. As you can see, there's quite a bit of safe zone here. This is a safe zone, and you can also put anything from here to the back wall, which makes this side a great place to come into the hoistway. On the front wall, you can see that there's not a lot of clearance. As you can see, here is the sill that runs pretty much the entire front of the hoistway, and you also have to take in consideration our sill support, which adds additional clearance issues. I finished the template on the front wall. The first thing that I'd like to point out is that I've continued the conduit run all the way down to about 6 inches off the pit floor, and I've 90'd the conduit to the front wall. And you can see here I've drawn an outlet box with 2 outlets, and I've labeled it double outlet GFCI. I continued the run to the center of the pit where I've drawn a 4-foot pit light. I've also labeled this pit light and I have noted that it needs to be 10-foot candle of light in the pit. As you can see, I've continued the run to where the sump pit is located. I've drawn a single outlet on the wall, and I've labeled it sump outlet, no GFCI, single gang. You can see our sill support here. I've also drawn out all pit lighting and electrical must be on separate branch circuits and NEMA 4. Now this can vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, so make sure you reach out to your elevator installer and see if this applies to you. As you can see, I had to climb out of the pit to finish the template. The first thing that I finished is the pit light switch. You can see I've labeled it pit light switch. The next thing that I did is I finished drawing the ladder. This extends 4 foot above finished floor, and it's clearly marked ladder. And the final thing that I've drawn here is our sill support, which continues all the way up the hoistway. I did forget to mention the dimensions of these. You can see our sill support extends 6 inches from the face of the hoistway. Add 3 inches to the pit light switch conduit, which is 9 inches from the face of the hoistway. And if you add an additional 3 inches or 12 inches from the face of the hoistway, that's where the edge of the ladder starts. The typical ladder is either 12 or 16 inches. For the purposes of this video, I drew a 16-inch ladder. I just finished laying out the template for the machine room. The first thing I'd like to point out is I've marked out the disconnect for the cab lighting. You can see I've marked 110 volt with 15 amps. Next to that is the disconnect for the 3-phase. You can see I've clearly marked 460, 3-phase, 60 cycle. I've also marked out that the machine room should have 10-foot candle of lighting. On this side, you can see there is already a block out for the light switch. I've labeled it light switch. And down here you can see the blockout is already there for the outlet, and I've marked double outlet GFCI. That concludes my video on the pit template for a hydraulic elevator with machine room. Stay tuned for future videos on hydraulic machine roomless elevator and electric traction elevator. Until next time, stay elevated.